Tim Steidten flattered by the Liverpool links. David Moyes potentially getting sacked. There's only one common denominator for me. Good morning, all you wonderful West Ham fans. Now, listen, this is a bit of a rant, a bit of a moan, a bit of a what is actually going on. It's getting some stuff off my chest, but I started off the show by saying the typical roller coaster ride of West Ham seems to have re-entered the world. Now, there could be an element of panic. There could be an element of worry set in, and rightly so, amongst the West Ham fans, rightly so, me included. Being that defeat against Arsenal really hit home for me particularly. And the situation for me really is that I'm here to moan about one man and one man only. And I'll kind of dissect it a little bit and explain to you why I feel this way. Now, I've titled the show saying things will never change. It will never change while Sullivan is in charge. And I categorically stand by that comment. I want things to change as a whole from this club. Listen, I'm not naive enough to know that West Ham obviously had a fantastic European run over the last couple of seasons. I think that's been a very good time to be a West Ham fan. But also, when you have that good time to be a West Ham fan, you have an opportunity. And this is something I believe David Sullivan doesn't recognize as opportunity. And because he is such a clever businessman for himself, that opportunity sometimes leads to failure, or consolidation means more money. Now, you may call me living a pipe dream, or I'm doing him an injustice, depending on how you feel about the owners of West Ham. But in particular, I'm talking about David Sullivan, the guy that has been public his whole life since he's taken over the club. In actual fact, public whenever and whatever club he previously owned. Extremely public. And we know how he interacts with particular the fan base, and in particular with social media sites. We were once upon a time included in some low-level conversations with one of the heirs to the throne, you could say it, in the Sullivan family. And for me, from the early days, it didn't suit what we were looking to do. But I always was intrigued by the world of being asked to put out specific information that led to the owners coming out in a better light. Now, I'll rewind even further. I was sold that dream, right? So I'll bring this up just very briefly, but I was sold the dream of the London Stadium. Absolutely, like many other thousands were. But I wish I'd done my due diligence a little bit more before I fell for that pipe dream. And if I had, and we had a platform, and I'm not saying this platform would have been enough, but if we'd have pulled everyone together, we could have got the message out there a bit more, that we could have seen the bigger picture about the real reason why West Ham moved to the London Stadium. Now, I can't deny whatsoever, gates are doubled, like you said, going from 30-odd thousand to 60-odd thousand in the stadium, having bigger season tickets, having cheaper season tickets, but equally on the other side of it, having more expensive season tickets. Of course, there are pros and cons. And okay, yes, over the last several years since we've moved to the stadium, we've saw some more successful times. So, a sixth finish, a seventh finish in a European final and a European semi-final. So very good modern times as a West Ham fan. But collectively, if you take up all the moments of David Sullivan being in charge of our club, you've seen opportunity. And when opportunity arises, they never snatch it by the bull, like they never grab the bull by the horns. So we could rewind slightly and we can look back at the final season at Upton Park before we moved into the Olympic Stadium, and we had the opportunity to invest better than what we did under Slaven Bilic. The issue we had was that the promises of world-class players led to under bar average players, and they went for quantity over quality. And that led to us having a terrible first season at the London Stadium, or one that you'd never write home about, and you forget, and be not the Astragugu moments and all that sort of stuff. And then fast forward again, we have opportunities to progress again, and the investment in specific windows doesn't come at the right time. Again, fast forward again, we come to the David Moyes era, and we have an opportunity to invest in a January transfer window a few seasons ago that really could push West Ham on. You just feel like we were just a few little cheeky players away from trying to get into that Champions League spot, and we didn't do it during that opportunity. And then this January transfer window in particular, has been a hot fire mess, whatever you want to call it. It has been a disgrace, really, as a West Ham fan looking in upon it. Now, people may say, well, how can you blame Sullivan, Anton? How can you blame Sullivan? Well, I'll blame Sullivan from the historic actions that this geezer has taken, in terms of the leaks. Let's start about the leaks. I know clubs have them, but we are led to believe, and we are all not silly, and we know that he has direct contacts with some of the people from the mainstream media and feeds this information out. And for me, there comes a time and a place where it needs to be out and not need to be out, and don't air West Ham's dirty laundry into the mainstream media, because what you think you're doing is being clever, but you're not being clever. You're actually making us look like that circus. The reason why West Ham fans would call you a clown or a circus in yourself. And I fear, and have feared, that we put too much onus on specific appointments that the club makes. So let's just look at the Tim Steidten appointment, that we've brought such a reputable technical director. Now, there obviously is some form of ability to persuade. They must have the ability to persuade, because we wouldn't pull in the quality of what Tim Steidten potentially can bring, has brought, and what he potentially could bring. And to listen to that interview about him being flattered. Now, we have to try and be practical here. Most people who have owe us nothing probably would be flattered in that circumstances. It's just the mannerisms and the timings of all of these interviews coming out. The story about Osman not signing because Sullivan had someone in his ear speaking to him, because someone wanted Jota, someone wanted Osman, and he pulled the plug on the deal, and bosh, the rest is history. My concern really is that he can sell someone, Snow, to the what am I trying to say? What's the saying? You know what I'm trying to say. He can sell anything, really, with all due respect, but the issue is about what the long term looks like for the club. So Moyes, for example, is good for West Ham business, because over the last years he's brought success. Over the last years he's brought more money in. Yes, we've spent more money, but we have to spend more money if we're going to be in Europe and try and progress up the leagues. But the results we're getting in the Premier League haven't been very good at all, and in particular good this season. Obviously not so great last year, but you can compensate the European win for that one. But this particular year, having defeats of 6-0, 5-0, 5-0, 4-1s already halfway through a season, it's not good. Yeah, okay, we're 8th. It's amazing. Well, it's not amazing because we can see the progression there. And my fear really is that we've been here, done this, wore the t-shirt in terms of Bilic, Pellegrini, Moyes, and we go back and forth with negotiations. And when we got rid of Pellegrini, the statement came out from the club stating that, it's something that we thought was right based upon what the fan opinion was. And then we go back to David Moyes and ask for forgiveness and bring him back into the club. The guy's never been part of top level manager negotiations, top coach level negotiations. And I think it's a bit naive for us as West Ham fans to think that, you know, it's good for us to look out a manager and think, oh, he's the right man that will fit the spot. But Willie, why? Because we've got Sullivan in charge. And will he remove himself from the situation? He's proven historically that he never does. So does that mean that Tim's fed up? Tim's going to go in the summer? Moyes is fed up, so he's just, you know, the spokesperson for the ownership. Mark Noble's pissed off. You can't help but think that this is the problem. This is the problem with West Ham. I get it. I get that people will turn around and go, well, we should focus more on the manager than we should on David Sullivan. But I look back at the transfer window and I can't help but think that David Sullivan's pulling the strings. He owns the club. He makes the decisions. And, you know, one minute we're saying, well, he's not the decision maker, but the next minute you're hearing that he's pulling the plug on a specific deal because his advisor has said it's not the right one. It doesn't add up. He has a history of doing it. He has a long, hard history of doing it. And I'm holding back my immense frustration at West Ham's owner. I am. I really, really am. I'm trying to do this in the most practical, explainer way, rant that I can possibly do, but I am holding back because historically, when I've been on this channel, when I've been on other channels, I have put the blame on one place. And my concern is, in particular this year, you know, consolidation for David Sullivan is good for business, but we want progression. And maybe it is right that we start looking at a new manager. Maybe it is right that we should have looked at a new manager in the summer, but they would never take that risk because they don't do that. He does not do that. So we're putting all our focus on David Moyes and this and that and this and that. And it's not great in the park. Of course it's not, but the focus probably needs to be on one man. And that is David Sullivan, the man that runs the club, the man that makes the big decisions at the end of the day, the man that won't put his head's between his head's between his legs, and he doesn't sometimes give a shit. And that's the frustration for me. I think West Ham's next stage of progression is only but when this ownership leave. And I think what David Moyes has actually done by consolidating West Ham, which, if you think about it, was a very good appointment. He has consolidated West Ham to a certain space. But once we're here, it's now time to push on. Let's not beat about the bush. We're never getting Xavi Alonso. We were never going to get Xavi Alonso. We were never going to get Unai Emery. We were never going to get them. You just have to look merely at the managers we were linked to. And let's not forget, the links are usually there or thereabouts. Back when it was Rafa Benitez, like that is where it was, there or thereabouts. I've got the concern that under West Ham's ownership, under David Sullivan, that Tim Steidten will not work. Do I want him to work? Absolutely. Do I think it will work? I'm apprehensive and I don't think it will because of this guy. I really don't. I'm honestly, and I'm not trying to be too negative, but I am being negative because I don't think it will work under this guy. That's it in a nutshell. That's my moan. That's my rumble. That's my grumble. That's my rant. I am honestly pulling back the reins dramatically because I feel like I could go off on one when it comes to this man and this man only. I'm not passing the blame away from David Moyes. I'm not happy about what's going on in the park. I'm not happy about the decisions he's made. I'm absolutely not. No West Ham fan would be. So let me categorically get that straight there to you there. Now, right now, I am not. But I am putting this situation currently on the direction of the club, the direction he wants the club to go in, and the direction the club can go in is missing opportunities again and again and again and again and again. So frustrating, man. Take it easy.